guys, it's Van Dazzle by Rachroea Vanguard. If you guys enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and this time we're covering DZ Set 7 for Lyrical Monasterio Artisaria. So Artisaria is our brand new grade 3 who looks like she's from Link Joker, and arguably is because she brings back the faded mechanic of lock to D. Now yes, lock did come back with Messiahs, but Messiahs don't use it oppressively, while Artisaria to some extent does. So in my personal opinion, this is Bushy's testing ground to see if they can actually bring back Chaos and how much of Chaos they can bring back. So let's get started, shall we, and see what we got, because honestly this deck is entertaining to say the least. First up today we have our energy generator. It's our ride deck crest. You might have ride deck crest in your ride deck. Auto ride deck, when you ride, put this card into your crest zone. If you win second, you get it to energy charge 3, and continuous you may have it to 10 energy, and auto begin your ride phase you energy charge 3, and then act once per turn, energy about 7, draw a card. All are pretty solid. You keep a total of 10 energy at a time. If you end up having excess energy, which in this deck you most likely will, you get to draw a card, and you get a free 3 energy every turn on top of an extra 3 if you win second. The best part about this is, while the Vanguard does use energy as one of her main costs, she only uses 2 energy a turn, meaning since you will always be getting 3, you will always have more than enough to actually supply her skill. So the energy generator, it's a very nice ride deck crest to have, and that's why we have it in our deck. Moving on, we have our starter in Heap Up October Precia. Grade 0 boost, 5k show, 6k base, auto, road point for second draw card, standard starter, nothing special. It is a free draw when you run on top of her. Unfortunately, unlike most other decks, you do actually have to run this as your starter if you're going to build Artisaria, because her ride line does actually require to ride off of the specific cards of the ride line. So this is your mandatory starter if you want to build a deck surrounding her, so one of in the ride deck. Moving on to our triggers, we have 1 over trigger and Mysterious Twins Warmia and Warmia. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power, over trigger, 1 over trigger in your deck. If you vote as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of your units, it gets plus +1 for the turn. If you voted drive track, activate, it's a disc effect which you get to you, the player, get during this fight, you get during your turn, all your rear guards get 10,000 power. So your rear guards, which if you play this deck like me are going to be a bunch of Shadow Army tokens, are going to be 25ks across the board, which means every single rear guard without Persona Rider triggers is going to be swinging for 50k swings, which is honestly pretty solid. But most times it's going to be without that, but at the same time, still being able to bully down your opponent with massive numbers is great. You can run Vulnerable for consistent multi-attacking, which I could see reasons why. You could run Asfaria for recycling and extra crit pressure. You could also run the Dark over trigger for healing and calling, or even the Yellow over trigger for just straight up rear guard nuke, but I prefer Warmia and Warmia because if you sack it early, or you just sack it at all offensively, your opponent's in for a hell of a game. Moving on to our normal triggers, run 3 copies of Transparent Snowy Night Bear Toy. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base, continues guard circle. If your opponent's Vanguards are grade 3 guard, she gets 5,000 shield. So she's a 10k shield, she's a draw trigger, so she helps increase the hand. You can make this a front trigger, because I definitely have had a few games now where the front trigger would have made the difference offensively, but this deck also likes to open with a lot of grade 3 cards and then not lose any of those grade 3 cards, and since most of those grade 3 cards tend to be orders, I like having Bear Toy here as a backup, so 3 copies of draws to help increase my hand for defense. And we have a total of 8 crit, 4 copies of Cheerful Sunshine Wallace, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k power. You're gonna make this any crit you want. I choose to make it Wallace because I copied this deck straight from Marlene, who had this crit in her deck. So there's Wallace, and then we have 4 copies of Precious Tune Edwidge, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k base, critical trigger, auto rear guard, about she boosted, shove her to soul, choose one of your units, 2k for the turn. Okay, cool. That 2k does not matter most of the time, and you don't really need her for the shove to soul effect, so you can choose to make this a vanilla crit if you want. I choose to make it Edwidge because I always like having them in any deck that really has soul blasters, because if worse comes to worse, you're gonna have that situation where you might just only draw your soul blasters, and then you're actually gonna need some form of soul charging. So just in case, I have Edwidge here as a 4 of, but realistically you can make this a vanilla crit. And then finally we have our vanilla heal in Talkative Hour Tammuz. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k base. You can make this any heal you want. I choose to make it Tammuz because I had her in the Marlene deck, and also whenever Wallace comes, so does Tammuz, and vice versa. So yeah, 4 copies of her. Moving on to our grade 1s, we're on 4 copies of Spectato Step Leone. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. I love the beautiful little birds in the background. They're so cute. For those of you who don't know, I just love birds and feathers specifically. I don't know why. Anyways, continues to regard a guard circle. If your order zone has a sound system in it, she gets 5,000 power and 5k shield active on player's turns. So she'll be a 10k base in terms of shield, and she'll be a 13k base in terms of just power, which is great because the best part is that is proccable the second you get any sound system into your thing. And because sound system is like an actual type of a card, you can, in theory, if they ever make a grade 1 set order, automatically have her be a 13k base if that set order was a sound system. So honestly, Leone is pretty good of a grade 1. Like, her power most of the time will only be triggered off at grade 3, especially as of right now where our only sound systems are grade 3. But again, if you found a way to cheat those orders out earlier, or if they end up making a different grade set order, then there you go. She'd be able to be a 13k base, 10k shield the second both players hit grade 1. So 4 copies of her, though right now her stats only increase when she hit grade 3. Moving on to 4 copies of Trailing No notes Reverbera. See, I like her because I know what her name is supposed to be. It's like trailing notes, so like trailing off the music or trailing off the tone. And then Reverbera is like reverberate, which is like Leonore's thing. Anyways, great on boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Ignore the rain in the background, it's coming down hard. Continues rear guard during your turn. If your order's on a sound system, she gets 5,000 power. Again, if they ever make a grade 1 sound system or they let you cheat out sound systems early, she'd be at 13k base once either player can start playing cards. And then auto rear guard that she boosted. If your order's on a sound system in it, bounce her to soul, and then choose one of your rear guards, bounce it to hand. So cool, it gets you free soul, so technically speaking, more reasons why you don't need Edwidge in your deck, but she gives you free soul, she bounces a rear guard back to your hand, and she'll be at 13k base the second you get a sound system in your order zone. Honestly, Reverbera is a really good grade 1, the downside is she's a vanilla until you get a sound system into your order zone, but considering the fact that the Vanguard can just cheat one out by energy blasting 2, not too hard to accomplish, so 4 copies of her. Moving on to our last grade 1 on the deck, 4 copies of Best Served Hot Warmia. Grade 1 boost, 0 shows, K base, continuous sentinel, go 4 sentinels, and deck can also put on guard circle. Choose one of these, it cannot be hit to the battle if your hand has 2 more cards in it. Choose a card from your hand and discard it. Standard PG, nothing to specify about it. Basically, that means if this is only one of the cards in your hand placed on guard circle, you don't have to discard what's great, because that means to be as aggressive as in the early game. Even though I said earlier, this deck really loves to draw all of its grade 3s, spam the ever-living hell out of your 2 grade 1s and bully your opponent down, because when they eventually counterattack you, you either discard one of your many grade 3 orders that you're just going to be able to pull back from the drop zone being the Vanguard anyways, or if you really have low amounts of hand cards, throw down Warmia, give them the middle finger, and you're good to go. The best thing about this deck is because it has the way to lock your opponent's front row. Technically speaking, even if your opponent gets really big numbers out on board, you only have to worry about using 2 PGs, which is how we saw Suzerain use it in the anime. And honestly, that's how this deck feels. Like, you just get a lot of hand cards the later the game goes on, and once you lock that front row, you can just stall your way out. So, 4 copies of Warmia, you can make this any Lyrical Monasterio PG. I choose to make it her though, because she came out close to the time of Artisaria's release. And then as for our ride deck grade 1, we have Dynamic, Exciter, Asteria, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. As I mentioned earlier, she's a ride deck grade 1, so we don't have any copies of her in the main deck. Auto, she's placed by riding from Heap Up Octaver Profata. Reveal a grade 3 card with Artisaria in the card name from your ride deck, and to search your deck for up to 1 sound system card, reveal it, put it to hand, shuffle the deck. Again, I love how she just says any sound system, not specific ones, so if Bushy does end up making different sound systems that can be played normally, and that would be possibly grade 1 or grade 2, you can automatically play them. But I love how she's on ride, meaning she's automatically deck thinning for you the second you place her on Van, so it slightly increases your chance of seeing triggers. So 1 copy of Asteria in the ride deck, obviously don't need in the main deck because it has no rear guard skill. Moving on to 3 copies of Dazzle Bubble Paradise Precia, aka the card I randomly throw into all of my decks if I have space for her. Grade turn set, 5k shield, 10k base. All notes she's put on guard from your hand or discard from your hand while riding from the ride deck. Counter boss 1 or energy boss 3 drop card. You can use CB with her because there are not really a lot of cards that do use CB, but since the Vanguard only takes 2 energy a turn and most of the time you're not going to see more than 1 to last 2 for a game, you're going to spend your energy on Precia instead just to get a free draw, which is good because again you can use her either while discarding for ride deck to replace her, or you can use her when she's put on guard circle to top deck into a card that can save you, such as a PG or a critical trigger. That has happened more than enough recently. Anyways, a second skill is auto and placed on rear guard circle. If you persona road, counter boss 1 or energy blast 3 to choose one of your units until end of turn, it gets 5,000 power, and then if you chose a rear guard, return that unit to your hand from rear guard circle at the end of turn. So cool, you know, simply persona riding it, you either energy blast 3 or CB1, again most of the times you're going to see energy blast 3 to give someone 5k. Best part is it can be a Vanguard, but if you do end up picking a rear guard, you can bounce it to hand. So if you want to do a cute little combo where you're trying to go for lethal, but you feel like your opponent might survive, call it on a PG, give Warmia 5k, make it so she boosts whatever, so it hits magic numbers. So if she's boosting a 17k base, because she'll be an 11k, automatically to 28k. And at the end of the turn, if the opponent's still standing, Warmia will be bounced back to hand thanks to Precia's skill. So all around, very good grade 2 for adding a little bit ending numbers for the end game, but also being able to keep yourself alive in case you don't go all out, and while also being able to replace yourself either via being discarded from ride deck or get you extra guard power during your opponent's turn. So she's a solid 3-0 for me. Then we have 4 copies of Devilish, Flanger, Lufur. Grade 2 set, 5k shield, 10k base. All no one placed on rear guard circle or put on guard circle. If your order's on has sauces with energy, she gets 5,000 power and 5k shield. So you know she'll be a 10k shield and 15k base. And then auto, when this unit is returned to hand from your rear guard circle during your turn, or is retired from rear guard circle during your turn, if your Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater Artisaria, CB1, draw a card. So cool. She'll get you a free hand card by taking out 1 CB, which is kind of annoying because that's the resource Artisaria wants to use, but she's the only really other CBer in the deck because obviously we don't use Precia's CB skill. The thing I love about this though is if you've been paying attention, Lufur is the only card in this deck that actually has Artisa mentioned in her card text, like in terms of requiring it for an ability. Like the only other card that has done that so far is a Ryline grade 1, and that's it. Everyone else really only requires a sound system. So if Bushy ever did decide that they didn't want Artisa to be the main grade 3 anymore, and they just want to make like a promo grade 3, like how Claudine is for technically Rachroea and Granthea, where she also focuses on play tokens but in a different way, they could do that with this deck where they just make a promo grade 3 that focuses on sound system because A, they'd be proccable. So 4 copies of Lufur, you know, being able to be a 15k pace and 10k showdown plays, while also being able to get you a draw by being retired or bounced, makes it very solid grade 2 in all of Lyrical Monasterio in general. Then we have our last grade 2 in the deck, one of in the right deck, none in the main deck, of Witching Vibrato Lifel. I like how this deck actually has like the names of music. I don't know why I find Vibrato so fun to say. Vibrato, whatever you mean. Anyways, grade 2 and 5k show, 10k base, auto replaced by writing from Dynamic, Exciter, Artisaria, reveal a grade 3 card Artisa in the card name from your right deck to search your deck for up to one test system card, reveal it, put your hand, shuffle deck. Okay, I hate cards that typically have the same exact skill as each other, especially if they're part of the same ride line, but it searches you sound system cards, so I'm not going to go too far against it, so I'll give it the one of in the ride deck for that. Moving on to our grade 3s, we have our sound system cards. You don't need these at 4. I like them at 4 just because. First up, we have 4 copies of Shout and Shadow, my personal favorite of the two because I don't like playing control decks. So grade 3, set order, continuous. This card cannot be played, and it cannot be put into your order zone other than by the ability of your unit with Artisa in the card name. AKA, the only 2 ways that you could put this into order zone would be either to just play it normally, which it has no cost, so technically you'd be able to play it for free, but since it can't be played, you have to move it into order zone via card ability such as Orphis Regis from Brantgate, but in this case Artisa, except because of its own wording, you have to specifically use Artisaria to put this into the order zone. Anything else will not work. Anyways, this auto skill, when it's actually put into the order zone, draw a card, call to one shot on your token. Cool. Get your rear guard, get you a free hand card. If you use Artisa's skill to place it from your hand, you get to draw another card because of her skill. So technically you would draw 2 cards and get 1 shot on your token literally for only E being 2. Honestly, good set order. This is the one I prefer to use because it allows you to get a bunch of 15k bases on the board, so it's a solid 4 for me. Then we move on to the card that most people would probably use instead because A, it's supposed to be oppressive, and B, it represents, you know, Link Joker, and that would be Mega-RomaniA. Grade 3, set order, continuous, it cannot be played, and it cannot be put into your order zone other by the ability of your unit with Artisa on the card name. Auto and put into the order zone. If your opponent's vanguards are grade 3 guard, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and lock it. Okay, so it gets you a lock of the opponent's rear guard, it says specifically if they're at grade 3. That is nice for like forcing down your opponent and allowing you to be a little bit more aggressive, especially if you already built up your board, because obviously you're supposed to Shout and Shadow first to beat them up a little bit, especially if you went first, and then when they go, they're at the grade 3 turn, once you survive, you Persona Ride, or even if you don't Persona Ride, like you still play this order to then lock down their biggest interceptor and try to go for game with the Shadow token you set up last turn via the order and the Vanguard. But being able to just be a free lock is great, especially because it's anywhere on the board, so it can be back row center. So you're playing against like one of the DZ set start bosses and they have like those 10k intercepts in the back row, just lock down one of those. All around, it makes for a very good order, so I'm just going to toss it as a 4. Though again, typically I don't like to use this card because I don't like playing oppressive decks, even if it's only locking 1 card at a time. I'd rather play, you know, beatdown, so I'm going to spam down a bunch of tokens. But if my board is full of tokens already, then I'll start using locking. I also really love how this card is a reference to the reverse speak, which is obviously what it's based off of with the locking, because they actually use the reversed R for this. So yeah, 4. Also, just a real fun fact, for those of you that haven't noticed, Suzerain's theme, I'm going to call her Suzerain, I always like forget what her exact name is, but her theme, if you pay close enough attention to it, is like one of the character's reverse themes from Break Ride. It may be Kai's. I've heard that it's Kai's. I don't think it is, but I know it's like a remix version of one of the Link Joker themes. So yeah, 4 of Mega-RomaniA. It's just a good lock card. Anyways, we move on to our normal units. We have 4 copies of Sing to the Sky Rachroea. Grade 3 to not persona at 13k base. I love her beautiful wings. I always love it when Lyrical Monasterio cards have wings. Speaking of Lyrical Monasterio cards having wings, I miss Celestials. You know, I miss those girls. I kind of hope we see them again. Anyways, auto rear guard, when she attacks on anything, she gets 5,000 power on the battle for each sound system in your order zone. So she essentially turned into Cardinal Draco Novoria from Orphis. And the reason why I say that is because her second skill is auto when return to your hand from your rear guard circle during your turn, or retire from your rear guard circle during your turn. If your vanguard's an Artisa, Soul Boss 1, choose one of your get 5,000 power for the turn. Okay, so she gets numbers just like the Cardinal Draco does, but she doesn't call you another token for free, which was honestly busted to that card. But I mean, she gives someone 5k. She does eat into the soul a little bit, but she's literally the only soul boss in this deck, so take that as you will. Being able to make herself an 18k swing on her first attack, which doesn't require the opponent to be at a specific grade, and then 23k swing once you get a second order in there, and then just keep going up by 5k return is great. But on top of that, her other skill also doesn't require your opponent to be at grade 3, so if you're just trying to bully your opponent down and beat them all in one go, you very much can. Honestly, Sing to the Sky, Rachroea, very good grade 3, gets numbers for just not herself, but everyone as well, so I give her like this all 4. She does her job well. And our last card in the deck is 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck of a card I really love to say the name of because I feel like it's jokey, but it makes for such a fun deck name. Polyphonic Overdrive Artisaria. For the record, that name is straight up the name of this deck. If you're wondering where the deck's name came from, it came from this. Polyphonic Overdrive is so fun to say for me for some reason. Anyways, grade 3 twin personal 13k base, continues Vanguard Circle. During your turn, if your Order Zone has 2 or more houses in it, she gets a crit for the turn. So, quote, she's double crit. And then active Vanguard, once per turn, Energy Blast 2 to choose any sound system card from your hand or drop zone and put it to Order Zone. If you put a card from your hand, you draw a card. So downside is that is a mandatory draw, so it could end up decking you out. But on the bright side, you're going to have 2 energy literally every turn because the energy generator gives you 3. So you just pay 2 energy and then you play either your Mega-RomaniA to lock rear guards, or you end up playing your Shout and Shadow to call tokens. And then either way you draw 1, or if you play Shout and Shadow, you end up drawing 2 off it. And her final skill is Auto Vanguard. Once per turn, when she attacks at anything, by Crown Blasting 1, you can call up to 1 Shout Army token to rear guard circle for every sound system in your Order Zone, and your entire farmer will get 5,000 power to end of turn for every 2 sound systems in your Order Zone. So once you have 2 sound systems, you'll be able to get 2 15k attackers, and she'll be a double crit at the same time, and the farmer will get half a persona ride. Honestly, Artisaria is good. She gets you orders into your Order Zone consistently every single turn for a cause that will always be available to you. She is accessible on double crit the second you get your second grade 3 turn, and then she also allows you to get tokens aggressively for every single order instead of just for every set of order, and then she still gives numbers for the front row as well, and she does it all for minimum cost. All around, Polyphonic Overdrive Artisaria, yes, I love saying that name so much. It's just a really good grade 3 to have. She does her job really well, so obviously she's got to be. Here's a 3 of the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck. And then obviously we have our 5 Shadow Army tokens. It has been confirmed by Bushy, you can run either of the 2 Shadow Army tokens. You can run the ones that are technically from Brandgate, the ones that Orphis uses, or you could run this token, or you could just run this token in Orphis as well because it's nationless, but it represents a Shadow Army token. It cannot be put into your deck. It's a 15k base, it has boost, and you pretty much just bully down your opponent with it. Personally, I like these more than I like the Orphis Shadow Army tokens because they're cute little butterflies. And without further ado, that's it for this one. I hope all of you enjoyed. Honestly, this deck is very fun to play, and I'm surprised by that because I did not think once I saw the words lock, I would actually enjoy it because I thought it'd be too oppressive. But I'm really glad that Mega-RomaniA is not the only set order in this deck because that means you can use Shout and Shadow and play like how I would play, which is aggressive with the deck. And honestly, I want this deck to be able to play the orders 1 turn earlier so Artisaria can get more pressure. But I know that'll be way too busted, or it'll be the key to opening up the busted doors, because that means on your first grade 3 turn, regardless of what grade your opponent would be, she would be able to do double crit, she'd be able to call it 2 Shadow Army tokens, and she'd be able to give the entire farmer 5k power. Now, I mean, if they found a way to make it so that the only way you would get 2 orders on your first grade 3 turns if your opponent was at grade 3, then fair enough. But again, there's the chance that Artisaria can become broken in the future if they ever allow her to set more orders in the turn. So without further ado, I'm just going to here. I hope all of you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, don't forget to touch. I'll see you all next one to send up your Vanguards.